Fight back. Fight back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in, Stormtroopers. It's the Storm Surge podcast. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game, here with BP in the building with you, the virtual building, so to speak. But hey, listen, if you're checking us out on the Storm Surge podcast YouTube channel, go right ahead. There's been a lot of events and a lot of things going on in the shorts there throughout the week, including statements of a lot of the movement that took place over the weekend with trades all over the league. But of course, this in Orlando's Storm podcast featuring and covering and following an undefeated UFL football team. It feels right to go first and talk about everybody's favorite quarterback, unless you're John Gruden and you love Jack Plummer. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, no longer a member of the Storm. He has galloped over to the Birmingham Stallions, and perhaps it's because Anthony Beck got sick of BP griping about people griping about DTR. I have no idea.
Shut up.
Yeah, right. It's a whole thing. But yeah, the Amani Bledsoe, Matt, the Storm managed to corral Matt as another quarterback in exchange there. So essentially a 1-player for 2 deal for the Storm. And frankly, listen, I know people always ask, who won this trade? I really think this is one where both sides could have potentially won it. I don't know what you think, BP.
I think the Storm got away with it. I think they won it. You know, everybody that will suddenly be wearing Birmingham Stallions jerseys because they're fans of DTR, fine. Sayonara, we're undefeated. They're not. They're in the crapper right now. So, and AJ McCarron basically saying everything is on the table. That got my attention. So I think a lot of this was initiated by McCarron's desperation. This is literally a Hail Mary. I mean, Matt Corral was on a slide, not doing the best, but he's been sort of stable. He's been around spring leagues. He's got flashes of greatness. So to be down on the guy right now, I think that's more of a systematic problem in Birmingham as much as it might be a quarterback problem. I think they have an issue with leadership, because if you browse the socials like I do, you read the feedback, which is why we have hashtag shut up, because sometimes people just say stuff and I'm like, dude, not even warranted. Why are you speaking right now? You are dismissed. But it's kind of evident that AJ McCarron has lost control of the locker room. It was solidified early in the season, but since they've had that couple games skid, it's not looked good. And he's really starting to look like the new head coach, the young head coach that really shouldn't have been coaching at this juncture. Maybe he should have been a coordinator, maybe ease into the position a little bit. I'm going to say something that'll strike a nerve with a few people, but maybe some others will cheer about it. This is kind of a Terrell Buckley situation. T-Buck got thrown into a bad situation where he really couldn't do a whole lot with his staff. He wasn't exactly surrounded by the best people. Not to say that T-Buck's a horrible coach, but it's one of them situations where, that was his pro coaching debut and This is what came out. And that's kind of where we are with McCarron right now. It's too soon to tell if this is going to be the only season he coaches, because there is a rumor right now that Skip Holtz took away some time to be with his family. Of course, his father, Lou, the very famous coach at Notre Dame and ESPN analyst later on, he finally passed away at the tender age of 90-something. So that was a big deal for their family, and he took some time away so they could, be with him as, his flame eventually went out and he went to the other side. And that's good on him. Do I think that the Birmingham Stallions will be his destination? I don't think so. I think he'll come back and coach, but I don't think the Stallions, although he's all in, I don't think that does AJ McCarron any justice if that were to happen. unless they told him, okay, look, sorry, we did you dirty, man. How would you like to stay on as a quarterback's coach? And Skip's going to take the team back, one of those things. So to circle back to the point, it's more of a leadership issue than it is anything else in Birmingham right now. It really wasn't a quarterback issue. But when you've got a player like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, you got to trade for some commodities, because Orlando's not just going to give you the house on this one, which is why we say Orlando won the trade. DTR is a competent, skilled, dedicated backup quarterback on the Orlando roster who's waiting for his turn while Plummer continues to rise. No place for him to go. Becht thinks he needs to be a starter, and he wanted to do him right, as he said this week in our shorts. Go back to the YouTube channel if you want to see what he said. But he went back and was like, I feel like I need to do DTR some justice here. He deserves to be a starting quarterback in this league, and he needs an opportunity. So they went to Birmingham and said, hey, guys, let's go. But, they're not just going to give him up for nothing. And where is Orlando the strongest right now? Well, right now it's at quarterback. And Matt Corral is another one of those systematic quarterbacks that will fit into that role if Plummer gets hurt, or they get into situations where, Plummer's not doing well. Maybe if he slumps, see something defensively that's got him rattled. They put Corral in for a couple of snaps. It's not like you're taking one style of quarterback and replacing it for another. You're getting a lot more of the same. A lot of that
too as a starter, by the way. I coach brought that up. I had no idea he was that, competent.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Matt Corral is not a horrible quarterback. He was just in a bad situation, and it was reflected on the field. You look at the play of Birmingham, it's like, well, they had some points where they were actually really good, but they weren't playing complementary football. The pieces of the puzzle weren't all there. So, but Corral comes over to now an undefeated squad, and he'll fit into a system where Beck will continue his development, continue his growth, and who knows what the future will hold with him. But you can't just give DTR away. So you got to get something in exchange. So now you've replaced your backup quarterback now, and then you get this Amani Bledsoe guy.
See, that's the thing. You asked where this group is most stout, BP. I think it's on the defensive line, and you just made them better. Good job.
That's bingo. I mean, that's, I was eventually leading there with a nice warm up, but that's where the Orlando Storm wins the trade, is because Bledsoe now comes into a front who is absolutely started to become menaces. And you've seen what this guy can do on film. He was also a pain in the ass against Orlando. Now he flips uniforms, and they're just going to see his former team in another week. So, and he's already seen this Battlehawks squad. So he himself is a living scouting report right now, because he's already played St. Louis in the Dome. So now he's applying things that he's seen from a different coaching staff and going, hey, guys, they're going to do this. They're going to do this. So a beautiful trade, almost ingenious, I would say. Not quite genius, but we're talking real close to, holy crap, that's 1,000 IQ. Because now you get a guy who's experienced, who's skilled, and he's just seen the opponent that you're facing this week. That's pretty slick. In exchange, Baltimore gets DTR. We'll see him in a week. Maybe that will fix their quarterback problem. Maybe that will adjust their situation. I hope for DTR's sake that he gets into Birmingham, gets installed. He's been named quarterback one, so we know where he's headed. We know he's going to be the signal caller. Will it be effective? We'll find out this week, and then again, we'll find out at Inter & Co. the following week, as he now faces the defense that he's really only been practicing against. And practice reps are much different than game speed. And I don't think DTR is ready to see game speed Orlando Storm defense. Now that may be trouble, especially if they come in 5-0, because then they're going to be starving.
I still think it's advantage Storm. Now, granted, we're talking in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about it again here on the Storm Surge, next week for sure. But let me break it down for you. You have the unproven backup that you're starting here, while you're also down what might have been likely your top defensive player as well. And your coach is a guy that whines like this.
3 points at the end of half. So they had one touchdown, which I have an issue with the touchdown. And I challenged and raised hell, because the play clock was on 0 for about 2 seconds before the ball was even snapped. And that's my issue that I called the refs out on. Like, there has to be, if coaches and players are going to be held to a standard, the refs in this league need to be held to a standard. Like, there needs to be some consistency on this thing.
You know what?
Okay, get the graphic ready. Get it ready. Shut up! Oh my God, you were a player in this league, AJ. You should already know. And on top of that, since you were a player in this league, you should also know that dead ball fouls are never reviewable. The rule clearly states live ball fouls. So that play, you can stuff it up your because you're screwed, man. Okay, so look, the referees missed a call, right? Did it affect the outcome of the game?
I was about to say, I saw a quote of that speech, and I wish I held on to that tweet. Somebody, it took a Photoshop or it might have been in Microsoft Paint for all I know, and then scratched out the 16 with a red marker and then put a 9-0. There, is that better?
Yeah. Do you feel better about yourself now? You would have lost by 9 instead of 16. Does that make you look better?
Didn't kick the field goal, by the way, right?
Yes. Come on. This is the part where I'm going to call it out under the carpet. Okay. This is the sign of a coach who has lost control of the situation and is trying to deflect. And sorry, it's not going to work. Your team's play on the field is reflective of the fact that you were not ready for this. You were not ready for the storm that was coming. You did not pay attention to your storm preparedness kit. Sorry, I can't help you there. The evacuation sign was that way, and you missed it. So, yeah, it didn't change the outcome of the game. You know what the rule is. You should know better. You were a quarterback in this league. That's a sign of a guy who's trying to make excuses for himself, and that's sad. I can't believe that he said that and tried to make it sound like he was right. I mean, granted, you got a point. Okay. So, because I've been watching play clocks all season now. So to McCarron's defense, just a little bit here. I've been watching play clocks specifically on Fox, and I've seen a couple instances where that play clock hit 0 and a good one Mississippi, and then the ball gets snapped. For both teams. It's not just one particular team. It's not a favoritism.
Too. The question I would also ask too before we throw the refs under the bus, which seems to be the popular thing to do, how much of that is the production also as well? This
is also true.
So there's so many things it could be, but go ahead, BP.
Yeah, no, so you're also right. It could be production that's, because as somebody who's had to be a timekeeper in a live broadcast with a scoreboard system that was not directly synced to the main board, you have to keep that for the folks at home. Now, big linear media should have that technology in place and should be utilizing it for accuracy's sake. But I don't know what Fox is using at this point, or ESPN. As we've seen, we're kind of getting some B-team personnel on these spring football broadcasts, so they're not always consistent.
Or over and above, is it an integration issue with using these other stadiums that aren't normally what I'll call front run stadiums as well? Is that availability present in, soccer stadiums and things like that? No disrespect to Inter and Co. or any of the other places where they're holding the games, but it could be a system issue there. Speaking with my IT hat. Now, I could be completely wrong. That could be just an issue. And maybe it's play clock production like you mentioned, or maybe the refs just ain't all that in a bag of chips. That's cool. Listen,
I don't know. There's some veteran referees that are in the UFL right now. Some of them are from Power 5 conferences. There's not many NFL refs over there, but
you like the officiating on the whole on the games we've watched. Granted, I've focused mostly on the Storm, so I'm not seeing everything, but I don't feel like the games that I've watched, generally speaking, have been horribly officiated.
I agree with you on that one. I don't think they've been horribly officiated.
Mike Pierre is the only issue I have with the UFL. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, if there is an issue and it's a game that Blandino's covering, it's going to get corrected. And I've seen him do it. So, I do not think officiating is as bad as AJ McCarron's leading on in this statement that he made. So
just the refs too. It's a fun thing to do. Everybody's doing it.
Listen, every coach does it. It doesn't matter who you are. There's always it's us against the officials. I mean, come on, man. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. How many times do you think I've heard that? So ding,
That's the dumb. Listen, as a non-KC fan, that's the dumbest narrative that's out there. Where were you guys when Brady was getting defended? But I digress.
Exactly. It's wah wah wah. I don't don't want to hear that. Don't want to hear that excuse anymore. So with all that to say, that there was some, a blockbuster trade that immediately hit the wires on Sunday. Sunday was madness for those of us in the media. And it's not that we took a week to gather it up. It's just, we have a schedule.
Life in BP. Just say it right.
We got a lot. We have lives too, unless you'd like to change that with a Brinks truck full of money. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud?
By the way, please feel free to subscribe to the Storm Surge Podcast YouTube channel.
Speaking of Brinks trucks, come on and give us a reason to get some money. Hit that subscribe button. Watch and tell your friends. But the other trade that, dude, this was a head scratcher to me.
Yeah.
DC and Louisville basically flopped quarterbacks. Bean goes to the Defenders, and Mike DeLillo goes to
Lulu. That's what I call this trade. Sorry.
Yeah, that is Delulu for you kids out there. This is that they're not aura farming this one, kids. Oh, I said it. The middle schoolers are gonna love me.
They're gonna Jesus out of you. That's 6'7", whatever.
Anyway. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's sus. Anyway. By the way, happy birthday, Kieran. Kieran is 9 today, and this is on the podcast just for you. Speaking of sus, no,
wow,
no, he's going to be so mad. He's going to be so mad at me for 2 reasons now.
Yeah, someone should paint that on a rock. Which I mean, if we're going to take a minute to shout out birthdays as we record this, my daughter is 12, so there you go.
You see, there you go. So we're celebrating birthdays of all the people we know. Bean goes to DC. 4 games. The guy goes 58 of 122 for 819, 4 touchdowns and a pick, and 63 rushing yards on 16 carries. I don't know what was that. I don't understand what Louisville was doing.
The quick thing behind those stats that you dropped, BP, 2 of those games were against
Orlando,
the undefeated team in the UFL. That just happened to be the Orlando Storm, by the way. Yeah. I could make the argument, though I personally won't. I could make the argument that Jason Bean's the best quarterback that Orlando's faced
to date. Yeah,
I think it's McClendon personally. He did pretty good for a first game outing with the Aviators.
Yeah,
but
well,
and
give McClendon credit for being the first blood drawn in this undefeated run.
Correct,
and he's gotten better. Now, if Orlando faces Columbus a second time, different ball game. As we saw,
they may not necessarily be spotted 6 points by a special team stumble to open the game.
That's true. And as we saw against Dallas, Dallas beats them bad in the first one, and then Columbus turns around, monkey spanks them the second game. So, it could go either way. I'll be honest though, with this Louisville trade, I was like, wait, what? Because Louisville really did have 2 quarterbacks that were pretty much the same in their play style. So it's just insert whoever. And Bean does have the tendency to do a little too much.
Hero ball.
But hero ball for sure. But I don't necessarily think that was a reason why he should have been. I don't know the logic behind this one. I'm having a lot of trouble wrapping my head around it.
I know fans are pointing to the whole slide at the end of the 1 game thing at the goal line or whatever. I get, if that's the best you could come up with, I mean, I'm not mad at you for thinking it's that, but also, I don't see this one either. If somebody has something they could point out, please let us know in the comments. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll talk about this later, and then maybe we'll hit it on our next live. But honestly speaking, that one was a scratcher. But then this one.
And there's this leading into the Battlehawks. That's right.
There's this one going into the St. Louis week. Luis Perez, the Spring King, 8 spring football seasons this guy has played. He's played for just about everybody that you can possibly think of in every league that you can possibly play in that 8 season stretch. And he goes to the St. Louis Battlehawks in exchange for tackle Corey Stewart. So it looks like that Dallas is trying to shore up the offensive line, which would make a lot of sense because they've had some issues with blocking up front. Not that they're in a terrible spot with just 1 loss. But listen to where Luis Perez has played. Are you ready for this? 8 seasons. The Birmingham Iron from the Alliance of American Football.
I was about to say the AAF, correct.
Yep. in the XFL, he played for the LA Wildcats, the New York Guardians, Vegas Vipers, and the Arlington Renegades.
In the same season, by the way, where he
Yeah.
left the Vipers to become a champion. Why?
Exactly. Uh-huh. The Spring League, that's what it was called. He played for Jousters, and in the USFL from the New Jersey Generals. He spent time in NFL training camps, of course, with the Rams, the Eagles, the Lions, and the Chargers. He was selected. This is Corey Stewart. Now, Stewart was selected in the 2026 UFL draft, and he's been in all 4 games for the Battlehawks, played 3 seasons with Ball State in his senior year with Purdue, playing 44 games with 41 starts. So he's kind of the new kid on the block, whereas Perez comes in as an outright veteran.
He comes in with an AARP membership.
In football years, yes. And in spring football years, he's already in the home. But this guy coming up to the Battlehawks on a roster that's already got 2 decent quarterbacks, if not inconsistent. So Brandon Silvers and Harrison Frost have been flip-flopping their starting duties right now, and each of them has had their struggles.
I remember Silver struggling at times with the Roughnecks.
And he struggled with the Stallions too. Both of them did, actually. So it was Silver's coming out throwing interceptions, and that forced the change to Harrison Frost. Harrison Frost comes in, he throws a couple of picks, but then he rights the ship, and then everything settles down, and then St. Louis ends up winning the game. And as they're screaming in the dome, "Cacaw is law." So now we have Luis Perez. So they didn't trade a quarterback out. They didn't give up a quarterback. So now they've got these 2 guys on the roster, and I haven't heard anything about either one of them being released. Frost is purported to be the starter. So Perez will not start this game, despite his experience.
As far as we know, at least, right?
Yes, as far as we've heard. Now, this could change in a day or so. But I don't think Perez is there to make an impact on the field so much as he is there to make an impact on the sidelines. This guy has got enough experience, and I've watched him through the Renegade season so far. He's not involved in taking snaps because they too have quarterbacks at depth. He's there on the sidelines playing coach. He's out there applying his skills and diagnosing things and getting these guys to develop a little bit. So from a tactical standpoint, it seems like Luis Perez is going to be this major force. And if either Silvers and or Frost somehow falter in this game against a very tough Orlando defense, then Perez comes in the game, and somehow that's going to be the magic pill. But I don't really think that's the case. I think they're going to go with Perez as that player coach and let their younger quarterbacks do what they need to do. Not to say that Perez couldn't come out and sling it, and not to say he doesn't know the offense, but you also have to consider, too, he's literally coming into a different system now, so he's a fresh install, and it's probably going to take him a minute to learn the playbook anyway. So
as much as you're trying to say about Luis Perez being the mentor and that Frost will have the job, to think that's a long-term decision, you might need to chill.
Put the graphic up, Kyle. Thank you.
I'm not mad at you to say any of the above, but I mean, from your perspective, listen, I know this is oddly enough with the availability with Coach Beck this week. We were talking so much about the trade. Minimal exchanges were had about him facing his former team. It seems kind of boring compared to the Sith Jedi stormtrooper narrative of the master facing the apprentice, like we had with the Stallions, and we'll have again with the Stallions here in a couple weeks. But with the Battlehawks, I mean, I'll ask you up front, man. You're my spring football sicko, BP. What's the biggest thing to worry about?
I think the biggest thing to worry about is the fact that it's St. Louis. It's still St. Louis at the end of it all. See, I'm enjoying the $4 beers, and I haven't even been to the stadium yet. That's great production on my part. Anyhow, no, it's honestly St. Louis. You can't put these guys out yet, even though they've had 2 consecutive losses. I don't think they're done. And like I said, both Harrison Frost and Brandon Silvers have had some flashes of greatness. These guys will throw the deep ball. They're not afraid of it. As we saw in that Birmingham game, they are not afraid of chunking it deep and getting big plays, something that Orlando has been loath to stop in many games. Now they haven't had to do it as much because they're putting teams in situations where they're behind the sticks. So that's a big deal for Orlando. If you're talking X's and O's and X factors for this game, the first thing that Orlando needs to do defensively is they've got to get in the quarterback space.
Sorry.
Whoops. Well, sorry. That's a little premature. But, nothing wrong with running the damn ball, though. But while we're doing that, though,
I'm just so used to what they have to do to win.
Anyway. Run the damn ball. Yeah. It's a nervous twitch at this point, right? So, but what they've got to do, though, is in addition to stopping the run, which they've become very good at and forcing teams to be one-dimensional, you've got to look at whoever's under center and just ignore the noise, be it Silvers, be it Frost, be it Perez. Don't give a damn who it is. They're coming for you. So that's when you're starting to see Keyshawn Banks. You're going to see Tavante Beckett. You're going to see Amani Bledsoe now in the backfield. Like
suddenly Isaiah Buggs is chopped liver or something.
Right. So I mean, the front four are going to have to establish it first and get whatever quarterbacks in there, into some trouble and make them make those bad decisions. Because as we had seen with the previous film on these guys, either quarterback had a serious problem throwing to guys in the wrong color jersey. And that is something that Orlando can capitalize on. If you want to see some turnovers happen, I would expect the Storm's secondary to be feasting this week if the front seven can put pressure on the quarterback and force them into bad decisions. However, they also need to keep the ball in front of them, which they're doing a really, really good job at. This Orlando Storm defense has come leaps and bounds ahead of where they were by week one, where you were seeing lots of sort of Swiss cheese coverage in zone, quarterbacks hitting stuff over the middle, but they were still keeping the ball in front of them. Now you look at that Birmingham game, and it was like somebody lit the kerosene and shoved it right up their booties because everybody was on fire. Every time you saw somebody catch a ball, there was at least one, if not two jerseys on the guy or headed in that direction with a purpose. Yeah. So ball hawking last week, huge deal. Do they need to do more of that this week? Absolutely. St. Louis does have some very talented receivers. I mean, you got to look at Hakeem Butler. He's going to be an issue. He's their leading receiver right now. 10 catches, 311 yards in 3 games. Guy hadn't even played the whole season with them yet. His longest is 75. So they're going to throw the ball to him, and he's going to be open. So I heard Hakeem Butler's name called a lot in the last couple of St. Louis games I've watched. Kevin Latulis is another one. Jacour Pearson, they spread the ball around. It's not like these guys are just getting rando catches. You're not always throwing to Hakeem Butler, although he's the primary threat. Latulis and Pearson will get involved into the game. Jarvian Howard will also get involved in the game too. So, they've thrown for a combined 752 yards, with receiving. So I don't think you should sleep on their passing game, but the Storm have got to keep everything in front of them as they have been and tackle the ball, because Butler he'll disappear after a while. Wrap him up. So if you're going to keep your foot on the gas, give it a little more at this point and keep moving in that direction. Eventually, I'm sure the secondary is going to uncork and they're going to pick a couple of passes off, maybe run one all the way back to the house.
Yeah, no, I like the sound of that for sure. And I would say offensively that, that keep the metal to the floor on is the right move there too. I mean, I say that it's kind of a pretty obvious thing. The only time that the Storm have scored nearly 30 points was the game they happened to need to. So that worked out nicely in that second battle with the Louisville Kings. But, when you see things like this going on, I mean, you have to be happy about what the Storm are doing. I'm just doing it again to watch Sam Jack ragdoll a guy and just run up the middle there too. By the way, shouts to Sam Jack's mom, who actually used the term ragdoll when we were talking about that play on Instagram. And yeah, just to see that work is chef's kiss, and accomplishes BP's favorite goal of run the damn ball. But yeah, offensively, what do you want to see this week from the Orlando Storm?
I want to see great decisions made by Jack Plummer. Again, I want to see more of the F word, the game manager. I mean, call it what you will, guys. It's working. If it ain't broke, do not fix it. So I want to see better decisions, from Jack Plummer. He made great decisions in that last game against Birmingham. But I also want to see his offensive line freaking block for him. Gonzalez, I'm talking to you.
I was about to say, I just showed Sam Jack ragdoll a dude, and you're bitching about the O-line? What just happened?
Right, exactly. Because there are some plays that, it's like, come on, man. If you hold your block just a little bit longer, they call that a lookout block. Look out, here he comes. And there was a couple of those on the left side of the line that if you don't clean that stuff up, Plummer's not going to be able to make those decisions. In fact, you're going to be calling for Matt Corral at this point because he's going to be on his face. You got to help a guy out. And, for all of the great things that the offense did, there were some things left on the table. And, again, 1% better every week. Every week, they make that market improvement and the offense clicked much more. But it starts again at the point of attack. Jack Plummer is not the most athletic quarterback. He is sneaky athletic, but he is not the most athletic quarterback. We want him to not be sneaky unless it's in the RPO or the quarterback draw, which was more or less what that was called. So I want to see the line really establish some dominance this week and give Plummer as many clean pockets as they possibly can. Are you going to win 100% of the battles in the trenches? No, of course not. I would shoot for about 90 this week. I would really want to get that over under up and keep him as clean as you possibly can. Because then, by doing so, you can run the damn ball. Actually, no, not this week. We're not going to run the damn ball. We're going to keep running the damn ball because they did such a good job with it. Jashaun Corbin was much improved in the run game. And, of course, Plummer with that giant run. So why not? Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that means that the offensive line has got to give Corbin those rush lanes. They've got to give him those clean holes because once he hits it, kaboom, you're gone.
And I think that's something that Jack pointed out in the availability this week too, BP, is it's not just the run game, although obviously that was great. I don't know how many teams, let alone this was clearly the best run game by the Storm all season. I don't know how many UFL teams have run for this many yardage yet. You would think I would have researched that by now, but I didn't. I'm over here, on my regular thing, covering for the Duval Dive and the Orlando Magic and Locked on UCF and UCF Night Zone, which, by the way, now I got to write an article about Malachi Lawrence getting drafted in the first round. Anyways, all that being said.
That's okay. I've got you. Are you ready? Okay, so Orlando. Total yardage for the rush game across all rushers, 425 yards this season. St. Louis, 325. That's
a lot. That's a big difference.
They average 3.7 a carry, which is, it's a tough running league right now. I mean, you're not going to get all of them at once. They do run up to about 4 or 5 yards in a cloud of dust.
And
so,
there's less time in the game, it feels like, because it is a running clock like that. That's a factor.
Right. Yes, that makes a big deal. But, Jashaun Corbin, for what he's done this season, he's actually averaging 50 yards a game.
Right.
So
those are the big chunk plays that Jack was talking about. Getting more of those was why they were more effective and did what they did early in the game. Credit to Birmingham for turning it up defensively and kind of silencing things at some point. But at day's end, hey, listen, you did not get points on the board, and your performance at quarterback was the first regular season shutout in the UFL, which, by the way, BP can't help but think that's part of why Orlando was able to corral Matt into the building at quarterback as the backup.
Yeah. I mean, keep running the damn ball. That's all you got to do. Set up. There it is. Set up the passing game. And, again, point of attack. We can't argue that point enough. And that's something that I think we can exploit and wear this, St. Louis defense down, because they are also pretty talented in the secondary. Remember, they were picking off some passes and running them back to the end zone against Birmingham. So, give credit where credit's due. But again, as it is in football, the longer the opposing team's quarterback is on the sidelines, the higher the likelihood you're going to win the game. As we saw with Birmingham, we only scored 16 points. They got that many. So why was that the case? The first 3 series they had was punt, punt, and punt. Keep doing that, you're going to do the job. And how do you keep your team on the field and their offense off in a clock that's moving at warp speed? You run the damn ball. Plain and simple, kids. And you keep running the damn ball.
Run the damn ball, and you keep running the damn ball.
There you go. Next week, I'll have a third one. No, there'll be even more. So that's, really offensively, that's what we'll need to do. If you want to write those keys to the games down and put them on a graphic, that's it. It's pretty simple. The formula's been the same for Orlando. I think they just need to continue working, keep climbing, doing exactly what they've been doing, and just add a little bit more of it. And guess what, kids? You're back at home. You're back in the friendly confines with the eye wall at your back. So there's no reason for you to lose this game for that account, because I certainly hope, with some of the noise that's been made in Orlando right now, and the fact that from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday evening at select concession stands in Itter & Co., you can get $4 draft beer. How many professional sporting events can you go to that said, hey, this beer was $4?
How close will that be to the draft, to the press box elevator? I'm
wondering.
Curious.
We're going to have to scope that out. I might have to have a $4 beer with somebody in the eye wall, to be honest.
That would be fun.
Depends on how this game goes.
To be off shorts,
Yeah, exactly. BP having a beer on the wall. But you can't argue with it. And they've had some great ticket deals right now with some packages, some family. I think there's like a 4-pack of tickets that includes some food. I can't remember off the top of my head. But 4 tickets and some concessions, $119 for the whole package. That's not a bad deal for a family outing on a Saturday night to go see your undefeated Orlando Storm take on the St. Louis Battlehawks at Itter & Co Stadium with, the weather's been a little dry out here, but it's otherwise been pleasant. So it's evening. So 7:00, gorgeous night to come out and play football.
It was last time they were here. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So I don't think, I hope people are not going to sneeze on this. My challenge to the Stormtrooper Nation, I heard that the highest attendance so far, according to what the UFL put out, the highest debut attendance was 18,000. I'm going to take St. Louis out of it, because St. Louis, 30,000, because they have a bigger arena or bigger stadium than everybody else is. Nobody else right now can put 30,000 people in a stadium other than St. Louis. So factoring out St. Louis, the next largest home crowd this season was 18,000. Itter & Co gets what, 25K, I think? We've got to beat Birmingham in the stands, y'all. We've got to beat everybody else. There is just no reason.
The game you mentioned involved the Orlando Storm. All you got to do is do your part. Show up, Orlando.
Yes. I mean, everybody, they showed up to watch us beat their team. So why don't you show up to watch us beat them? Get your ass in the stadium is what I'm telling you. Stop sitting on your hands. Oh, well, the draft is on tonight. Listen, you can watch people sit at home and play pick'em all day. I'm not even watching the draft. I should probably be watching the draft because I have to report on it tomorrow. But I'm watching it on the website because I'm not going to sit here and wait with bated breath who's going to get. I knew Fernando Mendoza was going to get picked in the first round.
The draft will be over by the time the game starts as well. Listen,
baseball. Look, the Cubs have swept 2 straight series. Do you think I care? No, I'm going to the Storm game because I like freaking football. And if you're a football fan, this is an excellent excuse to keep your fix going with watching a really good team right now keep winning. And guys, look, we're halfway through the season already. We win 5 more games. I'm not going to jinx it, but I'm pretty sure that the Storm are going to make a run. And you may be looking at a playoff team here, guys. There may be playoff football in Orlando.
Talk about playoffs. Playoffs.
We went out. We could host a semifinal. The championship game won't be in Orlando, but we could host a semifinal game. And we can't get 25,000 people for a potentially undefeated team in a playoff semifinal. then I'm going to start picketing in the streets at this point with $4 beers. Hey, get in here. Maybe that's what we got to do. Just got to chuck some beer around, I guess. But I don't want to harp on it, and I don't want to really sound like I'm beating a drum, to piss people off into going to a game. But we tried the nice approach. We tried the soft approach, and the sales pitch. Now I'm just going to get real with you. Just watch, come out to the game, see for yourself. I've heard too, Kyle, and we've talked about this as well with some other folks and our media colleagues. A lot of people in Orlando are wait and see types. They're kind of waiting to figure out what this team's going to do. Well, guess what? The wait is over. You have waited long enough. They are doing what you expected them to do. So come on down. This is the best thing that we've had going for us since the Apollos. I hands down.
So
come on and get it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to add to that. We've broken down the trades, the facts of the game, our X factors, and listen, beer, football. What more do you need, folks? So with that in mind,
actually, I tell you what. For all of our fans that are watching this, I know there are a small few. You small mighty stormtrooper platoon. Okay, pretty soon it'll be a brigade.
Give them credit.
Pretty soon it'll be a damn brigade. But I tell you what, if we roam the stands, not roam the stands, we roam the field every game. We take our lap and before we shoot our pregame stuff. If you can find us at the stadium in that happy hour, you point us out and say, "Hey, that's the Storm Surge podcast." I will promptly go find the nearest $4 beer connoisseur or go concession stand, and I will enjoy a beer with you on camera. Mark it. I said it. Bring your ass.
Can we say we? If they find both of us, I'm willing to do that.
Well, yeah. If they find both of, they find both of us, then yeah, we're going.
Cue up Donkey Song.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
On.
But yeah, you find either one or both of us and say, "You're the Storm."
But I'm of legal age, BP. It's okay.
Shut up.
So with that in mind, BP, now that you've put out the wanted poster and rewarded the stormtroopers of beer, tell the world where you could be found.
I could be found east of the Pecos at the shores of the St. John.
Yeah, right.
No, it's on your screen at bp.onair. Follow me on Instagram. I do lots of stuff right now with the Storm Surge podcast, but I also get into some other things. I know one of the joys that I got to do last year, and I hope to maybe do it again, is go down to Animate Orlando and do some convention type stuff. I do miss doing that with the Rock Princess, my cosplay queen kid. But maybe I'll get her down here for one of these conventions. And that was actually the first time I met the original Elmo / Master Splinter from the 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had no idea that he was Master Splinter in those movies. So yeah, all things media, of course, on the website at www.bponair.com. You can also hear my sports reports, a more compressed version of what I do for just about everything in sport that you probably care about, on Captain and Company in the morning, every second hour of the show, right about 10:50 on oldschool101.com. And I occasionally sit in the chair over there and yuck it up with the captain, or maybe once a quarter. So, and then my partner Kyle over here, who is also just as busy right now, where they can find you, sir.
Of course, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the Student of the Game. Check out my writings on UCF Night Zone and my performance as well on Locked On UCF, where I'm probably going to be talking a lot about Malachi Lawrence in the coming days here, as well as Nigel Kelly as the NFL draft continues on. Of course, my work on the Duval Dive covering your Jacksonville Jaguars, by the way, with my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, which, by the way, we won't be talking about Malachi Lawrence, apparently. We'll see what they do at pick 56, assuming that Jimmy Stones does not trade up or do something else between then and now. And my work, of course, as well, covering the Orlando Magic. I will be bringing my ass, as BP says, right from the Kia Center over to Interco Stadium. I'm glad it's not a long walk, but I'm going to get my steps in before I go cover the Orlando Storm that night. Do the lap, because I'm going to need the beer. There you go. So,
there you go.
For my good friend BP, for all you stormtroopers out there, this is Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.
Fight back. fight back.